Okay, so today for drawing practice, I'm copying a drawing of two hands clasped together. The drawing was made by an English sculptor called Henry Moore. Henry Moore, I guess, was most famous for large, kind of abstract sculptures, and his sculptures are in many cities across the world. But of course he also did many drawings, and if you hunt around on the internet you can find many examples of his drawings. So I'm just using an old, I think it's a 2B pencil, so a little bit soft, and just an old sketchbook. Hands, I find hands very difficult to draw. Of course, drawing the human figure, any part of the body, is quite tricky. But with other things like arms, legs, heads, you can to some extent simplify them and make them easier to draw. A head, for example, yes, you can look at it from different angles and therefore the shape changes, but it doesn't change that much because the shape is simpler than hands. Hands, with these fingers and thumbs, they can change into all kinds of weird shapes. And when you have two hands together, it becomes even more complicated. So with hands, I don't think you can simplify it down the way you can with a head. With the head, for example, you can use something like the Loomis head, which is a kind of generalized, simplified head, and you can get good results with it. I don't think there's any general simplification for hands that works as well. So maybe you just have to practice and practice and eventually become better at drawing hands. So I'm recording this on the 2nd of August 2020. So that is my 1-year anniversary of quitting my job in corporate IT and trying to make my way as an artist. So I survived my first year. And survived is maybe the right word, at least financially speaking. If anyone out there is thinking of quitting their job and becoming an artist, I would give you some advice. Obviously, I've only been doing this for a year, so I can't advise on everything. On the other hand, people who have been doing this for maybe 10 years, their first year was quite some time ago, so their memory may not be completely accurate. Whereas for me, it's all very fresh. I would say if you want to quit your job and try and make it as an artist, absolutely try and do it. But be prepared. Do not do what I did, where you just quit your job and see what happens. I don't advise that. Well, it's not exactly true. I did do some preparation. As I say, I was working in corporate IT, so the salary that I was making was, at least by local standards, it was a good salary. In some parts of the world, like the US, it would be considered a very low salary, but then it's all relative. So for me, here in Ireland, it was quite a good salary. And I live, and I've always really lived, a very sort of frugal lifestyle. I don't have many clothes. I rarely buy clothes. I don't have a car. I don't drive a car. I don't take foreign holidays. The only time I go to restaurants is when I worked in corporate and occasionally had to go out with clients or visiting guests or that type of thing. I would never go to a restaurant myself. It's too expensive. So therefore I was able to save quite a bit of money. So that helps me as well. If you don't have the savings and you just become an artist, you may find it quite tricky, because being an artist is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is absolutely not. It takes time, and you've got to, if possible, be prepared. So you can some people, they have a job where they can maybe switch from full-time to part-time, so that gives them a bit more time to do art, and then after another bit they can quit the job and take on full-time art. And if that's possible, that's certainly a good way of doing it. Or even quit your full-time job and get a part-time job. That can help as well. I just wanted my first year to be able to focus entirely on art and trying different things and trying to make some money. And what I found is it is possible, but the amount of money that I'm making, you really couldn't live off just that. It would be very difficult. So, first piece of advice, try and build up some savings if you can. The second piece of advice I would give, and this is something that I completely underestimated the importance of it, is getting some kind of, if you like, a fan base or a following. When you first start in art, of course, nobody knows who you are. You're complete unknown, and you're just one tiny little voice in a huge cacophony of voices of emerging artists, all screaming at the world to look at me, look at my art. So it's going to take time to build up a following, whether that's online, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, or offline. So if you're doing things like art fairs, markets, local galleries, that type of thing. Either way, it's going to take time to build up that sort of fan base. And you need that fan base. You need collectors, people who love your art and are willing to pay for it and are able to pay for it. The other way that you can make money as an artist is to say, okay, maybe I'm not going to focus on selling art. Instead, I'm going to focus on maybe teaching art. That's another way that some artists go, or combining them both. And by teaching art, I don't necessarily mean in an art school or something like that. It could even be something like creating classes on Skillshare or Udemy, those sort of platforms. That's all sort of teaching. And then if I was going to give any other advice, it would be just sort of enjoy. Don't worry too much about the future. Just enjoy the moment. Enjoy making art. Enjoy the opportunity to spend time making art. I think if you can do that, you're on your way to making it as an artist. Okay, so that's the end of today's video. Quite a short one today, so I hope maybe the advice is of some use to somebody somewhere, and maybe you enjoyed it. If you'd like to subscribe, just click on the big red button below. There's a bell icon beside that. If you click on that, that will let you know when I've uploaded a new video.